Hi guys, welcome to Real-Time Board Ask Me Anything. Hopefully you can hear and see me pretty well. Please let me know if you can see and hear me in our chat. We're waiting for our guest Jason. He should be here in a minute and we'll start answering your great questions. If you have any more questions to ask, please do that either in the chat or go to the questions and answers tab. You can either upvote the existing questions or ask your own. And it would be great if you guys let me know how you're all doing today. I always encourage people to network in chat, so you can add links to your LinkedIn pages, mix and mingle while we're answering questions. That would be great if you do it. Yay, thank you, Luke. And Luke actually asked three great questions. And Luke, it would be awesome if you could get in touch with me about this feature request that you had. I posted my email address, so you could shoot me a quick email and then we can take it from there. You're welcome, Luke. So how is everybody doing? Let me know what time it is where you are at the moment. Because with our MAAs, it was always a challenge to schedule it so that it can actually accommodate everyone's time zone, because we have users from Australia, United States, Europe. So we're always trying to find a good time that works for everyone. And it would be great if you can let me know what time of the day works best for you and what time zone you're in. Okay, so it's 6 p.m. in South Africa. Probably your working day is coming to an end. Are you joining us from your office, Luke, or are you working from home? Because what we've been noticing doing our MAAs with remote collaboration experts is that more and more people prefer to do home office. Now I can see that Jason is here, and I'm inviting him on screen so that we can start our broadcast in 5 minutes. Hey!
Hi, Elena.
How are you doing, Jason?
I'm great. It's Thursday. Good.
Yeah, Thursday sounds good. It's so close to Friday.
I know. So I guess that's why I have some excitement about it. How are you, Elena?
Doing good. I see you're wearing a really cool t-shirt.
Let's see here. We got to get that in frame. Okay, good.
And do you send those out to your podcast listeners?
You know what? This is a sample. I have 2 samples right now. And I do plan on selling these. I just need to get my store set up. That's been kind of a holdout for me. So, but I do plan on selling this and some other things too, like mugs maybe. I'd like to drink out of a User Defenders mug too.
Yeah, that sounds good. Podcast merch is awesome.
Yeah. Is this okay? I'm in a room that has a fan overhead. Is it loud? Is it annoying?
I can't hear it.
Okay.
We can ask our attendees if they can hear you all right and if they hear any weird sounds, because hopefully we're all nice and clear. And
yeah.
We'll be starting in just 4 minutes, 3 actually. Okay. So we have 12 questions. And I suggest that we start with the questions that are in the questions and answers tab. And we'll start with the ones that got the most upvotes and then move down. And we'll also be answering questions that will be coming from our chat if anyone wants to ask anything.
Okay, cool. You know what? I think I'm gonna try to get some headphones in.
Okay.
One second. Brand new.
Oh, unboxing. The most exciting part.
Everybody, here's how you unbox Apple earbuds. The real ones with wires.
Oh, that's a shame. I really like the wireless ones.
Do you like them? I haven't tried them, so I can't. My opinion doesn't matter right now.
They look a little bit weird, and I liked all those pictures where people were taking scissors and cutting the wires off and saying, "Hey, I got AirPods." They're not working for some reason.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I've never. That's the end of that. I don't even know what that does. Is anybody here? Can anybody help me figure out how to use this? This is the first lesson in user experience. I don't know. Apple's so great at innovating, but sometimes they just take away things, and it takes a lot of getting used to. You know?
Maybe somebody had to do it, so they did it.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this. So let me use my weird-looking Bluetooth headphones.
Okay.
I hate these things. Look how funny those look.
I love them. They're really funny, though.
That helps my confidence level. Okay, let's see. Connect here. Connecting. Okay. Hello?
Can you hear?
Hello?
Yeah, that's great. So
Good.
I think we can start. And there's a quick question from Luke here. Where are you guys based? Me personally, I'm in Russia at the moment. What about you, Jason?
I am in beautiful Denver, Colorado right now. So.
And
Yeah.
Luke is joining us from South Africa.
Oh, wow. Hey, what's up, Luke? South Africa. How's the weather?
It's great, I'm assuming. As always.
Cool. Oh, yes.
Yeah, great. Luke's confirming that.
Nice. Good deal.
Okay.
We'll get a little more below the surface here in our talk, I'm sure.
I suggest that we start with a real quick intro. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and User Defenders podcast.
Yeah. So I apologize, everyone. I didn't have time. I didn't make the time to put a slide together, and I apologize. It's been really crazy. But I will. I'm happy to tell you verbally a little bit more about myself and about the podcast. Okay, let me get my notes situated here. So, yes, I am Jason Ogle. I am a designer. I work at, as we mentioned, in Denver at a company called NCM. That stands for National Cinemedia. And basically what we do is we do the first look show before the movies. It's more of a U.S. thing, but basically if you live in the United States and you get to the movies early, in any of the major movie chains and some of the smaller ones, we have a show that's basically, we do ads. We basically partner with different companies, a lot of media related things, and we basically use that space at that time to kind of make it entertaining, but also kind of sell ads too. So it's a fun gig, fun company. I know we'll get more into that, but yeah, I'm married happily for oh gosh, my wife's gonna kill me. I think it's going on 17 years now. It'll be 18 years in September. And we have 6 children. So yeah, believe it or not, we have 6 kids, 15 all the way down to 1. So if you ask me how I find time to do anything, like that's a really loaded question, and I don't even know how to answer that. I can try. But yeah, it's never a dull moment in the house. But I love it. I love being a dad, and yeah, I love design. I love this stuff. And this is a segue into the podcast. I have the privilege of talking to people that I've looked up to my whole career and my superheroes. And we have a class of UX students from Toronto watching. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, class.
This is great. Hey, Toronto.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, so the podcast. The podcast has been a labor of love. I started it in 2015, so it's we're getting close to 2 years. Crazy. I think in November it'll be 2 years since I launched the first 3 episodes. Really why I started the podcast, it was kind of scratching my own itch. I feel like it's funny because there's been certain times in my career, not a ton, but there's been times where I just felt so lost. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years. And a lot of it has to do with just the beauty and the curse of technology. Of course, the beauty is we have tools, we have the means to make life a lot easier for us. And I mean, I love it. The curse is that there's always something new to learn. And I use curse loosely because I love to learn. And that's another reason why I started the podcast. And I can't tell you how much I've learned in the almost 2 years of doing this. It's been crazy. It's been a crash course. So students from Toronto, like, keep learning, stay hungry. There's so much to learn. Listen to the podcast, and that will help you for sure too. But yeah, that's why I started it. It's for people who want to stay inspired in their work and people who want to make a difference with design. And thankfully, that's a lot of designers. That's why we get into this, is because we feel like we can make things better, and that's why I always say, as designers, we want to make things better and have the power, the superpower, and the ability to do so. So that's really the main reason I started the show, and just to try to give back too. That's been a huge part of this for me. Is I've been at this for, like I said, I started doing this informally in '96. I started learning in 95. I started actually making websites in 1996. Things were so different then. A lot more simple, but yet a lot of uncharted territory. So a ton of learning. It's always been about learning. So anyway, I just feel like I wanted to give back, and I really hadn't done much. I'd done little things here and there, I'm sure, but I hadn't really done anything in like a really official capacity to give back. And so this is my attempt to do that, and I can't tell you how rewarding it's been. Even hearing, even if it helps one person, like, I kind of try to take that approach of, like, if I can help one person with this, then it's worth it for me. And it's been neat to see a lot of response on Twitter and a lot of response through my email list and things like that. So I love it. I mean, again, it's a privilege. It really is a privilege for me to do this. And I've learned so much as well. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the show.
I actually am a listener. But in case someone who's watching us isn't yet, do you have your favorite episode that is a must listen? Like, if you want to start listening to User Defenders, which episode would you recommend to start with?
Oh boy, that's a good question, Elena. And it's so hard for me to answer this because I love all of the episodes. I really do. I'm not just saying that, but let's see. The episode with Golden Krishna was really fun. It was really interesting. That guy, I don't know if y'all listening, if you've heard of Golden Krishna, he wrote a book called The Best Interface is No Interface. And that was he's really, his ideas are really groundbreaking. And this was one of them. It's like, what? The best interface is no interface? What does that mean? Well, he without like getting too elaborate and without spoiling the show, because I want you to hear, it's episode 11, by the way. He goes into detail about how we're drowning in screens, we're drowning in apps, and the magic words for everything, it seems like, have been, there's an app for that, right? Like, does there have to be? The question is, are enough people asking, does there have to be an app for that, right? I mean, does it really truly add value? Does it really truly solve a problem? So I love that one. That was a really fun one, and he's got a great sense of humor. And so that was a lot of fun. If you're ever feeling down, if you're ever feeling depressed, I'm serious, listen to Matt Marquis' episode. and I'm trying to remember which episode it is. Can you bear with me real quick while I search it out?
Sure.
That one, oh my gosh, that guy is a barrel of laughs. I laughed. My track was almost like a laugh track because he's just so hilarious. Let's see, not that one. Sorry, I should have these memorized by now. That's not it. Oh shoot, hold on. You want to 30? It's in the 30s. I think it's 32, maybe. No. Let's see. 33. No, it's in the 30s, you guys. Check it out, Matt Marquis' episode.
I think we can
Sorry.
swap the link and post it after we do the MA so that everybody can listen to it.
I'm sorry, what was that, Elena? I can't see you right now.
Did you lose me? Can you see me, guys? Because I'm still here.
We can't see you. I can hear your voice. It's cutting out just a little bit, but we lost video on you.
Okay, hopefully I'll come back.
Okay, no problem. I can still hear you though.
That's good. Okay.
Hey, everybody listening, is it sound okay? Like, I'm in a room with a vent overhead. I hope it's not bothering you too much. It's the most private room that I could find here.
Yeah, you're joining us.
Okay, Luke.
At work, right?
Luke can see us. Yeah, I'm at work today. I was at home yesterday in my garage. This is a little more attractive of a background. I do all my interviews in my garage.
Okay, Jason. And from a podcast host, are there any podcast episodes off the top of your head that, or not episodes, but podcasts that you can recommend? Somebody else is doing podcasts, obviously. So do you listen to any of them, any UX podcasts or just general interest stuff like Radiolab or S-Down or Serial?
Yeah, it's funny. I listen to a lot of podcasts. In fact, that's what inspired me to make the show. I took a job in Denver and I live in Colorado Springs. There you are. I took a job in Colorado Springs. I mean, I live in Colorado Springs, so that's about an hour-ish commute each way. So like Zig Ziglar, the great Zig Ziglar, my truck is a rolling university. And I've learned so much by listening to podcasts and books. And so I've really made the most of my commute. But it's funny, I actually used to have a lot of design podcasts on my Overcast app, which I love. That's a great app, by the way, for podcasts. And I actually started listening to less. And the reason I guess the reason why, it's not that they're not good. There's some really good ones out there. Like, for example, I've really been enjoying Design Life. That's from a couple of gals, and they live in Europe. One of them lives, her name is Femke. I just interviewed her. In fact, it's funny, her episode is the next I'm releasing a week from this Monday. So yeah, she lives in Amsterdam, and I believe Charlie, the co-host, lives in England somewhere, in the UK. So anyway, great young gals. They're really motivated, and we share a lot in common with personal growth and as it relates to design. So great episode coming up with Femke. I like their podcast. It's called Design Life. I listen to, I really like Austin Knight, my friend Austin Knight's podcast. It's called UX and Growth. He's been on a little bit of a hiatus because he lost a couple of his guys, his co-hosts, recently. They all work at HubSpot, and a couple of his co-hosts kind of took promotions and really had to drill into that a lot more. So he's kind of on his own now, but he's been just struggling to try to make ends meet with work and all the commitments that he has with work, and also still do a show. It's a lot of work, Elena. And one of the things you asked was, what goes into it? It's a ton of work. And I can get into that if you want, but those are a couple of the podcasts I listen to. One of the reasons I stopped listening to a lot of other design podcasts is I guess I really want my show to not be too influenced by other shows, if that makes sense. I kind of want to just go all in. I am. And I hope that doesn't sound like arrogant or anything, but just truthfully, I just feel like I just really want to go all in on what this show is and what it's doing, and try to keep doing my thing. But I love I have a ton of other like podcasts that I listen to, like a lot of personal growth kind of stuff. I've been enjoying The Minimalist lately. Those guys are really interesting. I'm going to pull my phone up here to tell you what else is in my queue. The Minimalist podcast, those guys are really interesting, and it's all about living life with us, not getting rid of everything you have. That's not their message, just sell everything and be miserable. Their message is only keep what adds value to your life, and I really like that. So those guys are really doing a lot, adding a lot of value to my life. Model Health Show, I love that. I'm on a personal growth journey. I've been trying to really grow a lot in my health, because I was about 50 pounds overweight about 2 years ago, and just frankly miserable. And I feel like that was hindering me from doing good design, and I can get more into the reasons why that is, but this has been a great show for me. I'm learning so much from this guy. And then I like Smart Passive Income. I love Pat Flynn. So those are just a few. Art of Charm, that's a great one too. That guy's been playing the long game. He's one of the first, like the original podcasters. So he's one of those guys that's like 10 years for an overnight success. He's really just such a great interviewer. I'm inspired by him so much, and to be a better interviewer myself.
I think it would be great if you could, as a follow-up, share a list of your top podcasts, because I'm sure everybody could benefit from it. And
happy to.
We have another question here, and it got a ton of upvotes, so let's answer that. How did you figure out you wanted to become a UX designer?
Oh, yes. I like this question a lot. You know what's neat about this, Elena, and everybody listening? This is my first time doing this, and I can't tell you, I actually woke up at 3 a.m. with anxiety.
Oh.
I woke up. I did. It's crazy, and I want to add value. I want to help you guys as much as I can, and this is the first time I've done this, so I'm just being vulnerable. I really appreciate these questions, and you guys taking the time to be here and listen to that. And I hope I can help and add value. But this question was interesting, and all these questions, you know what this has done for me? It's helped me a lot to kind of get to know myself more, because my show is all about other people. It's about people I admire and look up to, and I think that's one of the neat things about it is because I really take the time to learn about my guests, and so it's always external, it's always outward. So this question's really forced me to actually really go more internal with myself and go, who is this guy? How do I think about these things? So thank you guys for asking these questions. So what inspired me, or how did I figure out I wanted to become a UX designer? Well, it was when I used Spotify for the first time. No, I'm kind of kidding. It's when I use Spotify, when I use SharePoint. It's when I've used bad experiences, right? I mean, have you guys ever used something where you go, and I'm sure you have, so it's kind of a loaded question, but have you ever used something where you just go, did the designer even test this with real human beings? Anybody?
Yeah.
There's so many things. Yes. See, I bet everybody out there is raising their hands too. Luke's like, blah. Yeah. So there's a visceral response to that, and it's frustrating, right? Especially when you pay money. Like, I pay money for a device, for a product that I would hope, and every step, every design that we purchase is a leap of faith, right? We are hoping that whoever designed this thing has actually considered the people using it, right? And that's the beauty of user experience of this field. So my microwave oven, we moved recently. If you have the timer on the microwave oven, you can't microwave anything. Is that stupid?
It doesn't make any sense.
Is that dumb?
No.
It makes no sense. What? It's probably a simple thing, but it's just one of those little details. And so there's just so much bad design that hurts people. And I think that's another real big part of this too. And by the way, I'm gonna be plugging different episodes because there's a lot of learning for me. But I can tell you a big lesson that I've learned in this area, and it's not necessarily what inspired me. I was already inspired to make a change. It just reinforced, it galvanized my resolve in the importance of this field. I had the privilege of interviewing Eric Meyer and Sarah Wachter-Becher all about their great A Book Apart book, Design for Real Life. And by the way, that episode is at, I know where that one is. It's userdefenders.com/DFRL. So it's the acronym. Great. I thought it was a great interview. It extracted a lot about the book and why they wrote it. And the reason, I'll tell you, one of the main reasons this came about was Eric Meyer, who was a pioneer in this field. He and Jeffrey Zeldman, and they've been partners on a lot of things, like an event apart. He experienced something really hurtful, okay? And it was through design. And basically, it's tragic. He lost his daughter tragically to a brain tumor. She was only 5 years old. And Facebook has this feature called Your Year in Review, right? And basically, originally, it was something they just threw right up at you in your feed. And it was the picture of his daughter that he had posted, a picture of her face. And all around it were like fireworks and like, party, confetti. And it's like, that hurt him deeply, understandably so. And listen, Facebook didn't mean any harm by it, right? It was an assumption. It was an assumption that everybody had a great year. He had the worst year of his life, right? Ever. And that's what inspired him to write, and partner with Sarah, because she's got a story too of some tragedies that have happened with design and things. And so that's just one story, okay? Sarah Wachter-Betcher mentioned in one of her articles that I read when I was researching this interview, she mentioned about crash test dummies. Okay, so crash test dummies are super important, right? For testing the safety of cars. That we sit in cars a lot, especially me in my drive. And what she discovered was the crash test dummies were modeled after men, just men. So what was happening was women were getting injured or killed more often because the safety tests were not done for them. Okay, that's another design problem. Okay, and that's another assumption problem. This is something I didn't even know about. I just heard about from my guest, Austin Knight, I mentioned. I actually got to talk to him about mixed reality. That's going to be crazy exciting. Just all about virtual reality, AR, AI, and the emergence of that. But anyway, he drew my attention to something that's happening with hand soap. That African Americans, Black people who are trying to dispense hand soap at a hotel in Atlanta, it doesn't work for them, but it works for white people because it's using some sort of reflective light technology that's not reflecting off of a Black person's hands. And that's a problem. That's a design problem, okay? Everything's terrible, and that's great. That's an episode coming up too with my guest Matt Griffin. It was funny. We started talking about like everything sucks in a way. A lot of things suck, right? A lot of things were not designed for us, and that's great. Why? It sounds funny, but it's great because it's opportunities. The opportunities abound in this field to solve problems, to make a difference, to help someone's life, to save someone's life. Another one of my guests, she mentioned one of the questions I asked my guest is, "What's your design kryptonite?" Okay, and I loved her answer, and it was one of those things that I had to go back. It didn't hit me as hard as it did until I went back and listened to it again. It's like, this is incredible. Her design kryptonite is utopia. If everything was perfect, there would be no need for us, right? There's no need for designers. We live in a world where we know that's not true. I'm a user too. Sorry, Jacob Nielsen. I'm a user too. You're a user listening. We're all users, okay? Even if we're designers, we use things. And the whole point of the show is to fight for the users. Okay, I love that line from Tron, and I ask my guests that question every time I say, how do you fight for your users? So that's kind of to answer that question. That is really the way I feel about this field, and that's what really made me want to be a part of this, and especially to do this show to help bring people out, showcase people who are doing this, who are fighting for the users, who are making a difference in people's lives. So.
It's a beautiful motivation. So here's another question from Tanya. Jason, how do you convince stakeholders to invest in prototypes that you prepare? From what I see in my company, our UX designer is doing a great job and everyone really respects and likes what he's proposing, but eventually his work stays on paper and doesn't go live. Good UX require quite a shift in how you do your product, and it seems stakeholders are not ready to invest in it.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question. And what was her name? I'm sorry.
Tanya.
What was the person? Tanya?
Yes.
Tanya, are you here?
Let me check. No, I can't see her in the audience, unfortunately.
Okay, we're going to ignore her question. No, I'm just kidding. No, you know what? I'm going to try to answer this question the best that I can. I think questions like this require a lot of context because there's a lot of variables that could come into play here. I'm curious why the stakeholders are balking at greenlighting this prototype. I'm curious why. What is it about the prototype that they don't like? Is it like that the color is blue instead of green? Is it a high fidelity? Is it low fidelity? It sounds like it might be a paper prototype too. Or maybe that's just a way of saying it's just in a really messy wireframe state. Yeah. I think that the way that I would approach this is I would try to figure out what problem is attempting to be solved. And what I would do is I would say, well, what is the prototype meant to do, right? What is it meant to solve? What business value is it intended to add? And what's wrong with what's already there? I think that could be a way, and this is kind of where you start to dive into data. And I know one of the questions too is about data. I think this is an area where you just go, is it working okay? Can it be better? And maybe let's assume that that's what the designer's intention is. Like, yeah, this is a landing page. It's meant to convert, a conversion page, but I think it could be better. I think it could be a lot better. So I'm going to prototype something up, and I'm going to like try to pitch this. And maybe like I just want a cool project to work on. That's awesome. That's great. I love the initiative there if that's the case. What I would do is I would try to get some data on what's already existing, and then because you got to have you got to have the control, right, to measure against. So I would find out how's control doing, and then what makes your design or your prototype better to where it's solving that, and try to prove it with a split test. That's what I would do, because if you're just trying to show a prototype to the stakeholders without adding any business value, having any business rationale, I think that's probably why you're being shut down. I would really do that first, like figure out, like get into the numbers, get into the data, figure out, and even make assumptions like right now of what kind of lift you think it could bring, and just try to get a buy off to run a test. Honestly, I think that's the best way to prove it and to get the stakeholders on board. Because anytime if you want to get a stakeholder on board, mention money, mention business, mention this is how this helps us.
I think it's about introducing an experimenting culture to your team and to the company. Experiments, they really drive growth if you know how to run them. Here's another question from Izzy. What is a day in your life of being a UX designer like?
Oh, yeah. Oh, geez. So this is an interesting one, too, because every day is different, right? I mean, there's really not often that every day is alike, but my answer may surprise you. For me, it's all about personal growth first. I really, truly believe that if I'm a better person, then I can be a better designer. I believe those go hand in hand. When I'm unhealthy, when I'm not caring about myself, when I'm not taking care of myself, how can I ever be expected to provide or to have anything in the surplus, anything in the tank to be able to do that for others? Design is about other people. So I take a really strong stance on this, and only because it's been life-changing for me. Again, like I mentioned before, I think I mentioned early on in the show, I was 50 pounds overweight about 2 years ago, and I started listening to podcasts, personal growth bent, and then I just decided to try things. It was Pat Flynn's podcast. He did an episode where he was recalling his interview with a guy named Hal Elrod, who wrote a book called Miracle Morning. Okay, and basically that book, I haven't read the book yet, but basically, I've gotten a lot out of Pat's episode because he did an episode after the interview of how he actually tried it. A night owl. He's a night owl for so long. He tried the miracle morning, waking up real early for himself and for his goals. And he totally talked about, you know, how life-changing that's been for him. And I was inspired. And that it was a Friday that I listened to that. And I committed to Monday actually doing it, waking up early. And I think I woke up at like 4:30 or something crazy like that. But I'm telling you, it sounds weird, but it felt like Christmas morning. Like that morning felt like Christmas morning to me, and every other morning after has, because I'm actually, how often do we wake up for other people, right? We wake up, we're employed, which is awesome. I'm thankful that I'm employed, but how often do we actually just wake up for our employer? Because we have to get up, we have to be at a job. How much better is it and how much more productive is it if we can wake up for ourselves? And that means spending time with meditation, you know, whatever your spiritual life is like. That is a huge part of being a better person. And also exercise, and eating well. I can't tell you, it's been life-changing. And this also may sound weird and mystical, but it's totally increased my empathy levels in like ways that I can't measure. And I actually started writing about this, and I'm hoping to finish it. I'm so busy with everything, but I want to start writing more and getting more stuff out there. But I have something in the works about empathy and how a lot of different things that I've done have added to my empathy levels. I took up a lot of time with that response, but learning is another big part of the day of a life of being a UX designer. Always be learning. ABL. Always be learning. And it's funny, like a lot of my guests, one of the questions I ask is, what's your best advice? And I can't tell you how many people have said, always be learning. And that's a huge part of this, because like I said in the beginning, there's always something new to learn. One of my favorite interviews, now that I'm thinking of it a little more, was with Jeffrey Zeldman. Okay. Let me recount my answers a little bit. Those were both good episodes too, but my favorite episode has to be with Jeffrey Zeldman, My Design Superhero. And he mentioned something about this at the end of the episode. He said, if you're bored, you're in the wrong field. I believe that.
Yeah.
So, right? If you're bored, you may be in the wrong field. There's too much to do. There's too much to learn. So I love that takeaway. Collaboration on a team. None of us, and this is another part of the show, I say, you know, what's your design, what's your UX superhero name, which is a fun question. But one of the reasons I ask that is because I think it definitely adds to the value of the show and the theme. But the other reason is that I always caveat that question with, you didn't get here on your own. You've surrounded yourself with great people who have propelled you forward. So it's about team, right? We can only do so much on our own. And honestly, when we design on our own, we get tunnel vision, because we only see through this set of eyes right here. We only think through this brain, right? And see and feel with this heart. So those are good things, and you can add value, but how much more value can you add when you're actually open to feedback and open to other perceptions, other perspectives? Especially the people you're designing for. So I think it all kind of boils down to people, being a good communicator. Those are just some of the things. Serving others however you can, and always looking for opportunities to in your business to make things better. I think that's it. Looking for those hidden gems, and they're all around your office. I promise you, they're all around. It's just a matter of really being intentional to looking for those things. You can make a difference.
This is great. Here's another cool question from Ruta. What, according to you, are the 3 main skill sets one needs to possess to become a UX designer? And I think it pretty much continues your answer to the previous question, but what are the 3 main skills around this topic?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I would say, and this is something I'm borrowing from a book. It's called Project Guide to UX Design. And it really sums it up. It's curiosity, passion, and empathy. Those are, I think, the 3, I would say, most important traits to have in this work. Curiosity, you need to this is an epiphany I had recently. And it was, oddly enough, it was from after watching a movie. I love movies, and that's another part of why I love working here. But my wife and I went to see a movie called The Case for Christ, and it was really interesting. It's about a journalist, a really great journalist. I think he worked at the Chicago Tribune, I want to say, and he set out to dispel and unsuccessfully the resurrection of Christ. But basically, in the office, inside of the Chicago Tribune office, there's something on the back wall. It's a huge banner, and I just love this. It said, "If your mother says she loves you, check it out."
Serious.
I love that, because it's like, I mean, that's the most comfortable thing you would expect, right? You're like, of course I know my mother loves you. Oh yeah? How do you know? Check it out. And that was sort of an epiphany for me, because I realized, as designers, and especially trying to design for people, for humans, we really need to approach this work like journalists, don't we? Like, don't we need to like dive in as deep as we can and get to know as much as we can about the people we're designing for? So that was kind of like an aha moment for me. It was very recent, but I feel like that's part of curiosity. If we're not curious about the people we're designing for, we're just designing. We're designing aesthetics. This is what we're making. We're making art, right? And there's a big difference between art and design. So that was a real interesting one. Curiosity. You got to be curious, and that's another thing with the show. Like, I'm really curious about my guests that I get to talk to, and so I think it makes for an interesting conversation. I hope it does. And then passion. So passion, that's one of those things where it's like, man, if you're not passionate about this field, just like Zeldman said, you may be in the wrong place. This may not be it for you if you're not passionate about it, because as you know, folks that are doing this stuff, there's a lot of failures. There's a lot of failures that happen, and it's only because you're trying. So that's good. It's good to fail, okay? As long as it's not like something, extravagant, or of course you want to minimize that. I talked to Andy Vitale, he's working in healthcare, and he's literally designing products that are saving people's lives. Okay, a big failure for him is a big failure, right? But we need to make little failures. We need to because we're always iterating. So I think that's it. And also, we have to have our work critiqued. We have to, and we have to be open. We have to be humble. So that's another one, humility. I'm going to add more, okay? I'm going to add more than 3. Humility is another really important one, because we're putting our work out there, okay? And I think it's another important thing is to separate yourself from your work. You are not your work, okay? Your work is separate. It's a part of you, but it's not you, okay? So I think that's another part of the humility thing. When you're really trying to design a successful product, you're going to be criticized. And hopefully in a healthy way. Hopefully you're in a culture where it's like, it's a healthy criticism and not like, you suck, I hate you, get out of my company thing. If you're in a company like that, please leave. So anyway, I think that's a big part of it is to be passionate, stay passionate, always. Always maintain a beginner's mindset. And that's another reason I started the show, why it was so easy for me to do this, is because I've been doing this for a long time. I still am learning. I have a beginner's mindset because there's so much that I need to know, and there's so much that I need to learn. So it's just stay curious, stay passionate, and empathy. I've talked a lot about empathy, and I'll continue to, because if we're not truly trying to stand in the shoes of our users, then we're not designing the right things for the right people. Stamina, that's kind of another part of passion, not settling. And this is one that's not obvious until you actually are sitting in that seat where you're like, I need to do better. I need to be better. Break out of your comfort zone. Be comfortable with discomfort. That's another thing that my guest, Andy Vitale said. Be comfortable with discomfort. Break out of your comfort zone early and often. It's going to make you better. It's going to make your work better. It's going to help your leadership respect you more too. Be willing to do that. It's not fun, especially at first. It's intimidating. It's scary. Be willing to get out of your seat and ask questions. Ask the right questions. that's my answer to that
This
question.
is seriously really insightful. Thank you.
Sure.
So here's another question. What project are you most proud of so far?
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is, I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit on this question. I wanted to start with a past project that I want to start in the past, okay? Because I think our past is what defines, we can use that to help define our future and define our present, especially. I was doing web design, okay? So when I started doing this stuff in 96, it was web design. Okay, it was not user experience, although there were some pioneers like Jacob Nielsen and Don Norman and Apple, of course, focusing on the user experience. That was not as much of a popular thing then to the masses. It was just this, we had the shiny object of being able to create some cool stuff, and that was fun. But anyway, so until then, it was just all about designing for web browsers, and I still like to do that, but I didn't know CSS. I knew, the only thing I knew about CSS was I could actually make my links underlined, and I can make them, I can hover over it and make it change colors. That was all I knew about CSS. I got an opportunity when I was in transition from a job, and I was freelancing. I've done it several times. It's hard. So God bless you, freelancers. I admire you, and you making it work. It's hard. You got to do everything. So I was in transition, and I had an opportunity just through network where I was able to actually do some CSS work for some bands. I love music, so I got to do some CSS, kind of create the whole structure and template of a website. This is when CSS was taking over tables. I had never done a CSS layout before, and somebody asked me, "Hey, do you want to do this?" This CSS layout for these bands on major record labels? And I was like, yep, I can do it, sure. The normal question, like, can you do that? Yep. And so I took on these projects, and I was able to design, I was able to actually use CSS and learn it on the fly to do websites for Maroon 5, for Flyleaf, Eminem's record label, I forget what it's called, but I was able to do a bunch of stuff like that. It was only 50. I got $50. Okay, I got $50 for each one of those. But to me, it was like, wow, I get to do this. I love music. I get to have my hand on some major stuff. Too cool. I did get paid, and that was awesome. It was a lot more work than what I was paid for. But you know what? And most importantly, I learned a lot. I learned how to do CSS layouts. Okay. And then MySpace. Anybody remember MySpace? This is before Facebook. We were the first global social network before Facebook. But I worked there. I worked there in the good days when it was blowing up from 2007 to 2009. And before I got there, and this is what helped me get the job, I entered a MySpace competition to design a MySpace profile for my favorite band at the time, Jimmy Eat World. And what I was able to do, I didn't just design like your normal, like just go within the lines of kind of what they gave you keys to. I figured out how to, thanks to a blog post, thanks to somebody sharing their knowledge, I figured out how to totally hack that layout, and I made the coolest layout that I could possibly think of, and they loved it, and they actually kept it up for a year and let me put my name at the bottom of it. That's what helped me get the gig at MySpace. I was pretty proud of that. I was pretty proud of that project in the past. Currently, is, I would say, User Defenders. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been as like proud of a project as I have that's helping people than User Defenders. So I think that would definitely be my answer. If I could cheat and say what project am I proud of that is not live yet, it's something I'm working on right now internally. It's a movie release tool for our salespeople. That's a super important tool. I figured out a way to take it from paper, and this is another one of those opportunities, you guys. When you're looking around for opportunities, you'll find them. This was something that I just was right in front of me, and nobody else saw it either for a long time, and it was right there, and I realized, why are we doing this with paper? Why don't we digitize it? All the data is coming from a database. Let's make an interface for this. Let's make a front end. Let's make a responsive experience for salespeople, whatever tool, whatever device they happen to be on in the field. They can connect, figure out when the movies are coming, get it in front of the client, say, here's the movies that match what you do here. And here, hey, you want to see a trailer? Sure, here you go. You can't do that with a PDF, really, with a paper. So anyway, that I'm pretty proud of that project, even though it's not live yet. We're working on it now. So I kind of cheated.
You did, but it was really a past project, a current project, and a future project. A lot of projects going on in your life. So here's another question. How do you see the UX job market changing in the next 5 years? Do you see it be more contract focused, corporate focused, or agency focused?
You know what, Elena? I'm so sorry you cut out a little bit. I missed that question.
Okay. So that's a question that got 3 upvotes, and it's how do you see, and I think it's a question from guys in Toronto watching us, so we definitely need to answer that. How do you see UX job market changing in the next 5 years? Do you see it being more contract focused, corporate focused, or agency focused?
Contract focused. I'm sorry. What was the second part?
Corporate focused or agency focused? And your take on the way the UX job market is going to look like in the next 5 years or so?
Okay. Gosh, that is a good question. My answer is going to be a speculation because I don't have a crystal ball. I see a lot of things changing just because I see a lot of the medium changing that we're working in. For the longest time, it's just been about screens. We've only designed for screens, and that's become kind of a comfort zone. And I'm raised my hand. That's a comfort zone for me. I've not designed a chat bot. I've not designed anything in artificial intelligence. I've not even begun to scratch the surface with VR. Although my guest, I just mentioned Austin Knight. We have an episode coming out soon about that. He's doing a ton of really interesting experiments with VR. And frankly, like, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm not crazy about VR right now. And for one, because I get dizzy, I get really actually motion sick really easily. I bought a Google Cardboard and I tested it out. I could only sit on that thing for about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And I actually started feeling sick to my stomach. So I don't know. I mean, it's a funny thing. I mean, chatbots are all the rage, but we hate sitting on the phone with customer service, right? So it's kind of a funny thing. So I don't know. I still hate Siri. She's getting a little smarter, but I just hate her. I'm sorry. She doesn't help me. But by the time I've spent a minute trying to get her to do something for me, I would have done it in about 3 seconds on my own. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I love technology, but in some ways I feel like I'm a neo-Luddite because I feel like, again, going back to Golden Krishna's interview, I feel like sometimes we create connected things just because we can and not because it actually adds value. Somebody made Pizza Hut shoes. Okay, you're advertising Pizza Hut for one with your tennis shoes, and you're ordering a pizza on your shoes. Okay, I don't know. I think that's kind of the epitome of kind of what I'm talking about here. How much more energy could be used maybe on something else? You know, I don't like, how can you like give me something, like give me a way to like order a pizza and like send it to somebody who's really hungry, right? Like give me a way to do that. And I think that's a better design problem to solve. But anyway, the field, I don't know. I mean, there's an article on Fast Company, and it's been a while since I read it, but you could probably Google it. It says something about like UX design, the end of UX design job title as we know it. And there's a lot of speculation made, again, alluding to the fact that the medium's changing. The medium's changing. I don't know what that looks like. I know that there's a lot more. Google and Facebook are very powerful. Apple are very powerful companies with very large bank accounts, and you can already see they have been and they continue to build ecosystems, and a lot of things are connected. There's a lot of privacy challenges. That's a whole nother can of worms that come with this stuff. I don't know. I just got this recently. I swore I wouldn't. I swore I wouldn't get one of these, but I got sick of my Fitbit. Okay, and I actually wrote an article about how much I hate my Fitbit. But I needed a way to track my fitness, and this seemed like a better way to do it. But the trade-off is that all of a sudden I'm completely connected all the time, and I hate like notifications popping up all the time and interrupting I'm trying to do deep work. So thankfully there's a do not disturb, and I use that often. But I don't know. I really can't answer that question with any certainty, other than keep an eye on these mixed realities that are happening in this artificial intelligence and the connected world that we're living in. That's all I can really say on that. It's a lot up in the air.
I think we can
stay sharp.
Meet up in 5 years' time to see what actually turns out to be the future of UX design. So
it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of stuff being worked on. Again, a lot of it's virtual reality, I'm sorry to say. Hopefully it'll get better with the OLED displays and with faster processing, because right now the processors just can't keep up with a fluid experience, and I think that's why I get sick and why maybe a lot of other people get sick. But I don't know. I think that's, like it or not, I think that's going to be part of the conversation.
Here's another question, and this one's from Luke. And I think you already referenced this question and you answered it in part. How much do you rely on data to inform your design decisions, and how much is through gut feel?
Yeah, Luke, it's a great question. I think it's a delicate balance of both. I think as a designer, you have to trust your gut, and you have to understand design patterns. There's a lot of decisions that you make as a designer that have to be instinctual and hopefully based on experience. And if you don't have it, that's okay. You're building it, right? The only way to gain experience is to practice and to get better and to build it. So I think design patterns, that's another episode I had with Pek Pompat. He said, his main focus is on design patterns, because once you understand design patterns, you can actually trust your gut a lot on your interface, and really save a lot of the questions that rely a lot more on data. You can save those for that occasion, because right, like for example, like a hamburger menu, right? Those were super cryptic at first. I still don't think they're a good idea, and thankfully I think we've moved a lot away from that, especially with apps and such. But it took a long time for that design pattern to kind of catch on. I think now if you want to slap a hamburger menu on your website, I don't think I think a lot more people understand that now, because it's become such a common design pattern, right? But I think that when it comes down to areas that you're unaware of, or even areas like I mentioned earlier that you want to make better, I think it's good to start with data, because it helps give you a starting point. It helps you kind of understand how things are performing, and I think that will help inform your design decisions better.
Okay, here's another one. It's just come in, but it's actually very interesting. It's from Betty. In a test-driven product organization, there is a natural tug of war between product managers and designers. Product managers want incremental tests so they can measure the effects of specific changes. Designers want to create holistic user experiences. Please discuss how successful organizations walk this line, and how designers can maintain morale when PMs prevail in diluting the user experience for the sake of a clean read.
Oh, goodness gracious. Betty. Betty.
And Betty's
oh, man.
with us.
Yeah, go ahead.
Betty,
pardon?
Here. So if you have any questions, if you want to clarify anything, you can ask. Yes, UX asks the hard questions, Betty says in chat.
Yeah, it is a hard one. I'm going to need to read it again. Test-driven product org. Test-driven product org. So it sounds like testing is a staple in that environment, which is good. There's a tug of war between product managers and designers. Yep, and PMs want incremental tests so they can measure the effects of specific changes. Designers want to create holistic user experiences. Please discuss how successful orgs walk this line and how designers can maintain morale and PMs prevail in diluting the user experience for the sake of a clean read. Goodness gracious. That is a hard question, Betty. I don't know if I have a good answer for you on that, to be quite honest. I wish I could phone a friend and I'd ask my former guest, Jonathan Pimento, who is a product design. He's actually a product manager and a designer for Adobe XD, for a product Adobe XD. So I wish I could ask him this question because he's definitely in the trenches a lot more in those environments. But I would hope, and this is a hope, I would hope that you could kind of achieve both. I think that if there's a constant tug of war, then maybe it's more of a personal issue, that kind of needs to be ironed out, because I think that you both want the same thing. You both want to create a great product. So I think it's trying to find a way to meet in the middle and compromise on both sides. Try to find a way to compromise on both sides to how you can actually create a great experience and still lift the product. That's my best answer. I'm sorry if that's not sufficient.
Okay, Betty, please let us know if you want any further explanations. And I think we have, thanks for trying from Betty.
I tried. I'm sorry.
It would be really interesting to hear the full story and get more details, because to me, a tug of war between PMs and UX designers sounds alarming in a way, because I think everybody's working to deliver value to the user. So I'm pretty sure there was a compromise.
Yeah, I think that's really. I think it's. There's interpersonal challenges that maybe just need to be sort of addressed, and also I think it's having empathy for the other person's discipline. And I think honestly, I think a lot of interpersonal challenges, especially on projects, because we love what we're creating. Hopefully we do, and we're passionate about it. If you're bumping heads with somebody on the team or even on another team, and it's because you're both passionate about producing a great product. So that's a huge win right there. I would say just kind of try to have empathy for that other person's discipline and what they're trying to accomplish, and then meet halfway, meet in the middle. And then they'll have empathy for you, hopefully, if they see that you're having empathy for them. It happens with designers all the time, designers and developers. It's a normal thing. And I think it's actually, team tension is actually a healthy thing. Don't try to avoid it. Try to go after it. And of course, keep it healthy as possible. Healthy tension is a good thing.
Here is an interesting question from Patrick. And maybe you can answer it if you did any hiring for your team. So the question is, what is the best way to find a full-time UX designer?
Yeah, Patrick, this is a good one. I think that, and I have to think about this. I had to think about it. I think networking is a really great way. I think most of us have a LinkedIn account. I think if you don't have a network, if your network doesn't include a lot of designers, I have a feeling that you are connected to somebody whose network does. I would look into, and hopefully you have a good relationship with that person. If you don't, try to build that before asking. I always get a little bit, I don't know, it's a little off-putting to me sometimes whenever I haven't talked to somebody for like 3 years or 4 years, and then all of a sudden in my Facebook message, it's like, hey, can you support this thing I'm doing? Or, it's like, I don't know. That's just me, but I feel like, try to keep your network alive and try to cultivate that relationship. And I think that's one way to do it, is find somebody in your network that actually is connected to designers and ask them for an introduction. And a couple other ways that I thought about too was there's some great websites out there. AuthenticJobs.com is a great one. Authentic Jobs, and Dribble also, with 3 B's, dribble.com/jobs. They, like, some of the best opportunities I've seen for design roles. Like, they've been placed in these things, and you have people that are constantly, you have designers that are constantly looking, real good designers that are constantly looking at those sites for opportunities. I'd recommend those.
And there is a comment from Betty. Hooray for healthy friction. It's our company culture of data-driven design versus human designers, totally not personal. So that's good.
Nice.
I think
that's great.
We have time for one last question, and that one happens to be from Luke as well. What is more important to you, clarity of vision or concreteness of spec? I feel like clarity of vision is more important. I feel like the spec should always follow the vision. I feel like you need to have a vision before you can even create a concrete spec. And again, like in this field, thankfully, everything's dynamic. A design is never done. And I think that's one of those things that we have to come to terms with as designers. Unless we're painting on a canvas, our design is not done. So I think that having a clarity of vision, and again, that comes from finding a need, a really felt need that somebody has, and then a business justification. And then the vision, I think having a vision around those, so meeting those needs, will inform the spec. And I honestly, I don't even know if your spec is really going to be totally concrete either, because again, the vision changes often. So that's a tough one. I think that for me, I'd rather follow a really clear vision than something written on a piece of paper, than documentation. And isn't that the whole idea of Agile, right? Like results over documentation. So yeah, that's how I'd answer that one. Okay, Jason, thank you so much for great answers, and thanks everyone for your great questions. I hope everybody had a good time and found something important, insightful, and educational. And I guess Jason will follow up with a couple of links to books and podcasts that you mentioned. Thank you very much, Luke, and everybody else. And I guess I'll see you around, guys. Everybody have a great day and a nice weekend.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for being here, and fight on, my friends.
Bye.
Bye.